Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and the rumors were true after all. The new PlayStation 5 with a detachable disc drive is indeed a real thing, but to my surprise, and I don't know how Sony managed to do this. I guess Jim Ryan is leaving one last farewell before his departure because this new revision is actually worse than the original that you can pick up right now, and I'm going to explain why today. Then also there's a rumor going around that Xbox has a couple big-time exclusives incoming despite some of their previous statements. The question, though, is any of this actually true? Well, let's find out together. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe and also ring that bell. YouTube is kind of weird about this stuff, honestly, but if you ring that bell, you'll be notified every time I post a new video, and I noticed here recently about 50% of you currently aren't subscribed, so do make sure to do that, and I'll do my best. I'll do my very best to deliver you your daily gaming news dose every week, Monday through Friday. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with a new game from a developer I have very fond memories for, the studio behind Castle Crashers and Battle Block Theater, The Behemoth. This is actually one of my favorite independent studios. They just know how to mix a good sense of humor with fun gameplay that's also great to play cooperatively. Seriously, I mean, I've had some of my best cooperative experience with their games specifically, and, well, they will be back in full force next month with a couple new Alien Hominid games. Both will release on November 1st for the Nintendo Switch, Xbox, and PC. The first is Alien Hominid HD, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's an HD re-release of the original 2D run and gunner, but on the same exact day, they're also releasing Alien Hominid Invasion, which is a reimagining of the original title. Now, it will be a completely different game, though, with new mechanics and new gameplay ideas. It'll also have 4-player co-op, both locally and online, which, like I just said before, they do a fantastic job with co-op. So I think for that reason alone, you might want to pay attention to Alien Hominid Invasion, and then it'll also support non-linear levels. Now, again, both these games will be out next month on November 1st, surprisingly not for PlayStation, but however, you'll be able to pick it up on all other major platforms next month. Now, before we get to November, though, we do have a very busy October gaming schedule, as we all know, which apparently now includes some new Halo Infinite content as well. They just announced Season 5 will make its debut on October 17th, and it actually looks pretty good. You know, after a slow start, 343, they're starting to put together a string of good updates, which is pretty nice to see. More on that here in just a second, but Season 5, titled Reckoning, will include Extraction Mode reimagined, Flood-inspired customization, a flood sighting. Let's go and keep that in mind for the next full-fledged Halo game. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. It'll also include 2 new arena maps. It'll add AI to Forge creation, making it even more impressive than what it already is. You'll now be able to gain Battle Pass XP in custom games, which will give players a little bit more leeway in what they decide to play. You'll also be able to equip helmets across armor cores. And lastly, there will be a new hero rank. So that's a lot of new content, several of which are actually pretty exciting on top of that. But they also have one other thing planned for Season 5 as well. Now, this won't be there immediately, but they also announced Firefight King of the Hill will release sometime during Season 5. So I think that that's plenty of new stuff to keep players busy, and even better here is that we're starting to see these new seasons come out a little bit more frequently. This is the 3rd new season to release this year, which goes to show you 343. They've seemingly figured things out. See, the thing about Halo Infinite, and I see this happen constantly online, but there's a group of people out there that tries to kind of rewrite history for Halo Infinite. Contrary to what some people might claim online, Halo Infinite has always been a good game. When it first released, it was heavily praised by both critics and fans alike. Its single player is good. Its multiplayer has always felt absolutely fantastic. Some people forget this, but Halo Infinite won the Player's Choice Award at the Game Awards when it first launched, and that right there goes to tell you how much people were enjoying it at that time. So it's always been a top-tier game. The problem with Halo Infinite has never been about quality. Rather, it's just that 343 didn't really seem all that prepared to release consistent new content, which, is kind of important for a live service game. But the good news here is that they are starting to pick up their pace a little bit, and it looks like now is kind of the time to maybe jump back into Halo Infinite. I guess that's kind of the question here, though. Is it too little too late by this point? I mean, we've seen other games pick up steam years after release, but I don't know. Let me know what you all think about this situation. Moving on, though. We have a whole different situation here because we need to talk about the PlayStation 5 and really Sony's decisions this generation. More on that here in just a second because, oh boy. But yeah, so the rumored PlayStation 5 revision is in fact a real thing, and it's overall slimmer compared to the original model. They just announced the new PS5 with a detachable disc drive, and it's set to release this November, so just 1 month away. Now, this is not a PS5 upgrade or anything like that, though. This revision is really more about giving consumers the option to buy a disc drive later down the road if they decide they want more than just digital games, which that alone, in theory, is a great idea. However, and here's the problem, the execution leaves a lot to be desired, and let me explain why. I like the idea of this revision. I really do. And when I first heard the leaks, I praised this newfound direction that they were going in, or at least until today, because now that we have official details, we're not talking about leak anymore, we have official details, and there's some major caveats to this revision. So what's happening here is that surprisingly, they will have 2 different models. I thought it was just going to be one to maybe streamline the PlayStation 5 manufacturing a little bit more. I thought that was the reason that they were doing all this, but that's not actually the case at all here. You'll still be able to pick up a PlayStation 5 with a disc drive included for $500, and this will include a little bit of extra storage. It'll now have 1 terabyte of storage compared to the previous 825 gigabytes. So, I mean, not really too much of a change here, but that is a nice inclusion. However, the new revision will not come with a vertical stand. With this revision, you'll now only have the option to display it horizontally out of the box with its new design. So if you want to set your PS5 vertically, which based on a previous poll that I did on this channel, a lot of you do sit yours vertically. And, well, if that's the case, well, then you'll have to purchase its vertical stand separately for $30. Now, buckle up, because this isn't even the most egregious part, because, again, you will have at least a little bit of extra storage with this model that might make up for the lack of a vertical stand. But check this out. Here's the real issue with this revision. The new PlayStation 5 Digital Edition has increased in price. It will no longer be $400, but instead it will be $450. Not only that, but if you want to buy the disc drive separately, that will run you $80 on top of that. So if we do some quick math here, if you buy the digital edition plus a disc drive and its vertical stand, that will cost you $560. That is the very definition of nickel and diming you. So in other words, Sony just increased the price of the PlayStation 5 because, yes, this will completely replace the current models once those go out of stock. So honestly, I don't know how Sony managed to do it, but they made the PlayStation 5 revision worse than the original. Now, the physical edition at least has a little bit more storage to kind of make up for the lack of a vertical stand, but there is zero, and I mean zero, reason to be excited about this new digital revision. I mean, revision is supposed to make things better, or at least you would think so, but yeah, that's not really the case here at all. And if you've been paying attention, this is something that Sony has been doing pretty much all generation long under Jim Ryan's leadership. They were among the first publishers to increase the price of their games to $70. They were charging for upgrades, whereas the competition wasn't. They drastically increased the price of the PlayStation Plus just here recently. They also increased the price of their consoles in several regions already, and this new revision, it basically makes that price hike worldwide without having to make an official announcement. I mean, this is the Jim Ryan era for you in a nutshell. I'd say, if anything, though, this is exactly why Sony needs more competition. It's hilarious to think that regulators have gone at Microsoft for as long as they have, while Sony has been pulling this type of stuff all generation long. I mean, regulators were worried to death that Microsoft might possibly increase the price of their consoles and subscriptions. But meanwhile, you have Sony over here, and they've already done that. And the reason is quite simply because they can. Their brand is just that strong. So yeah, Sony is clearly confident by this point in increasing their prices pretty much across the board by this point, and that now also includes the PlayStation 5 Digital with its new revision. Now, one way Xbox has increased their chances at competing, though, is by acquiring some big-time publishers such as Bethesda. This gives them access to a lot of studios and IP to make them exclusive content. Just this year alone, they released both Hi-Fi Rush and Starfield as console exclusives, both of which have been very successful for them. These, however, are brand new games, and that's one thing that Phil Spencer noted about this buyout. He previously talked about releasing some legacy games as multi-platform, and we've seen that with games like Quake 1 and Quake 2. So with that in mind, there has been a question about the leaked Obvlision and Fallout 3 remasters. Will these be exclusive to Xbox, or will they instead be multi-platform? Well, Colt Eastwood claims that a source told him that they will in fact be Xbox console exclusives. Now, he did go on to say that in his opinion, he thinks that they will be multi-platform, but his source is saying otherwise. Now, the reason for that is because, again, in Phil Spencer's original statement about Bethesda's exclusivity, he previously suggested that they would make some legacy titles multi-platform, and that's why there's some differing opinions, some different perspectives of what will happen with these remasters. However, it is important to note that these are bigger games than something like Quake 1 and Quake 2, and these are games that they could really showcase and hype up as Xbox exclusives. They can push subscriptions and console sales. This is a much bigger game than something like Quake 1 and Quake 2, especially if they put a lot of work into these remasters/remakes or whatever they are. So I think when you look at this, some of this might kind of depend on the scope of each game and how much work they're actually putting into them. It's a case-by-case basis, as Phil has said several times. They're not obligated to make anything multi-platform, and they did acquire Bethesda with exclusivity in mind. They've been very clear about that from day one. So if I were to guess myself, and that's all this is, it's just a simple guess, but with these being bigger franchises, and especially if these are legitimate upgrades with a lot of effort put into them, I could see them being exclusive Xbox games, and I think that makes a lot of sense. If you think about it, I'm sure Team Xbox would love to establish themselves as the home for Fallout and the Elder Scrolls as quick as possible. These are two of their big flagship franchises, and I'm sure that they were among the top reasons in why they went out and acquired somebody like Bethesda. So with these remasters in development, they could really put that on full display sooner rather than later. Let me know what you all think about this, though. Do you think these games will be exclusives, or instead, do you think that they will be multi-platform? And also, what do you think makes the most sense? Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. We're asked you all to predict if Mario Wonder will receive a 90+ overall score on Metacritic. And yeah, so you all have a lot of confidence with this game. 67% of you voted yes. So, I mean, I think that speaks volumes in just how good this game looks so far. I mean, we've seen the previews, and impressions, they're glowing. This honestly might be the most excited I've been for a 2D platformer in years. And that's not only because of how creative this game is. I mean, we're seeing that on full display, but also the attention to detail. If you pay attention to those trailers, you'll notice just so many little details packed into this game. The way enemies react to your existence and what's happening around them. It's just got a lot of personality to this, and the closer we get to its release, the more excited I get for this game. Now, I don't know if it'll necessarily get a 90+ Metacritic score. I hope it does. That's pretty tough to do. But if there's a game that has a good chance of doing so, well, it's Mario Wonder, and I'm fairly confident that this game is going to deliver and will be a game that fans remember for a long time coming. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.